Detroit done through and through. Welcome back. Steve here, rocking another solo episode. I'm going to get into some Detroit Lions football talk. That's what we do. If you see me, you see Will, you know what's going to go down. We're going to talk some Detroit Lions. Hit that subscribe button. You guys hammered it on that last video. We're closing in on 4,000. I need you guys. We're a little more than 100 away from 4,000 subscribers. Help us get there. I can't do it without you guys, so it's much appreciated. Today's episode, listen, it's 100% a rumor. A lot of people have gotten in a stir. I'm going to talk about Maxx Crosby. So I guess I'll just kind of lay the foundation and where this is coming from. Maxx Crosby, defensive end from the Las Vegas Raiders, former Eastern Michigan Eagle, grew up in Michigan. So he's got some ties here. If you guys aren't familiar with him, if you're not a diehard NFL fan, I'm just trying to paint the picture for if you're a casual NFL fan. So Maxx Crosby, absolute stud. So what happened was he was on a podcast. I don't know the name of the podcast. It was I don't know. I didn't recognize any of the guys besides Maxx Crosby. Someone asked him, if you weren't playing for the Las Vegas Raiders, who is a team you'd like to play for? And he said the Detroit Lions. So this has been all over Twitter, all over big media groups. If you guys know who I'm referring to, it starts with a W. I won't say it, but they're just kind of shoving this thing all over on Twitter. Kind of creating a false hope, I think, but we'll get into that. So let's talk about Maxx Crosby. Under contract for 3 more years with the Las Vegas Raiders. Listen, he's only 26 years old. He's literally maybe just getting into his prime. His last 2 years, he's had double-digit sacks. As a rookie, he was a stud. Like he is one of the top 5 defensive ends in the NFL. It's not even close. You want to talk about just a pure pass rusher, high motor guy. He's what I really want to see Aiden Hutchinson become. And I think we started to see that a little bit last year with Hutch at the end of the season when he just became an absolute unstoppable beast. Listen, Maxx Crosby, like I said, under contract for 3 more years with the Raiders. He's getting paid. He got an extension a couple years ago. So his cap hit is pretty high. It's around $24 million the next 2 seasons. He comes with a price tag. We're going to get into it. I'm going to give you guys a full trade scenario later on. Just stick with me. Maxx Crosby also has a very, very strong relationship with Las Vegas Raiders' new head coach, who was their interim coach last year, Antonio Pierce. He was the guy that was kind of pushing for him, saying this needs to be the guy. The players believe in him. Maxx Crosby was the leader in that discussion and putting it out there that a lot of players wanted Antonio Pierce to be their head coach. He's a locker room guy, high motor. This kid's a freak, man. He's one of the best. There's just no possible way I see the Las Vegas Raiders even being interested in trading for him. So that's why I'm kind of late to the party. I've seen some I was tagged in some other stuff that I saw some other YouTubers and podcasters talking about Maxx Crosby. Some buddies asking me what I think, how would this work for the Detroit Lions? So here I am talking about it. I'm kind of late to the party. I didn't even think this was a rumor, just a guy sitting there saying, hey, if I wasn't playing for this team, I'd play for another. I don't put a lot of weight into that. It's all right, like, cool, that's great, but you play for the Raiders. You're under contract for 3 years. You're one of the best defensive ends in the league. Like, they're not just going to let you walk out the door. If they did, they'd be stupid. So I don't know. I'm just going to give you my opinion, and I'm going to throw out some more facts for you guys. The Raiders in free agency, they didn't really, blow the doors off of free agency. They didn't have an outstanding free agency, in my opinion, but they did sign one of the best pass rushers, defensive tackle, Christian Wilkins, who I really wanted to be a Detroit Lion. But hey, if DJ Reader's my consolation prize, I'll take that all day too. Go ahead and pay Christian Wilkins $27.5 million. So their free agency wasn't great. They signed Harrison Bryant, Alexander Madison, who we're familiar with from his Vikings days, Gardner Minshew, kind of a journeyman quarterback, him and Aiden O'Connell. Who's going to come out the number 1? I don't know, but we'll get into that in a second as well. And then they signed Christian Wilkins, probably one of the top 3 available free agents in this past free agency class. So, I mean, yeah, they hit a home run there, but overall, they also lost some guys. I know they lost Josh Jacobs. They re-signed some of their own. So their free agency wasn't really phenomenal, in my opinion. Let's talk about the quarterback position for the Raiders. And I get it. This is kind of looking like a Las Vegas Raiders podcast. It's not. I'm just trying to paint the picture for what the Raiders are building and why they're not going to be trading Maxx Crosby to the Detroit Lions. And I'm putting it to bed after this, and I'm done with it. But The Raiders play in a very, very tough division too. They got the Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs. The Chargers are going to be better with Jim Harbaugh. I don't really know what the Chargers are doing either. They don't have any weapons. Jim Harbaugh comes there and Justin Herbert gets Justin Herbert, a nice young quarterback in the top 10. A lot of people are high on him, and then they get rid of both of his weapons and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. So I don't know what the Chargers are going to be doing offensively. So I'm not 100% sure there. Then they got the Broncos, who always play tough sometimes when they're not getting blitzed by 70 to the Dolphins or getting their asses whooped in Detroit on a Monday night, Saturday night, whatever night that was, and we beat them. And then the Raiders in the draft, picking 13. They're in position to make a pick right there for a quarterback. J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, are they going to trade up? I don't know. But going into the season with them having Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, that can't be your franchise quarterback, either one of those two guys. Those are emergency situation quarterbacks at best. Gardner Minshew had a little stretch there where Minshew mania was going on that everyone was calling it. But as a whole, I just don't think he's an answer at quarterback, and the same with Aiden O'Connell. But I think at 13, they're going to be looking at a quarterback. Now, I've talked about the Raiders. I've given you their free agency. I've given you my draft ideas for them. What I would do is probably draft a quarterback. They have a team that they could build. They're not like going into a full rebuild. They're not at the bottom of the barrel in the NFL. They're kind of in the middle of the pack. At the beginning of the season, everyone has the same chance of making the Super Bowl. Everyone has a fresh start. Everyone's hopeful that they can get there, and you're not going to give up a pass rusher. You're not going to give up one of the league's best because those guys can wreck games. Maxx Crosby is one of those guys that can wreck games. Aiden Hutchinson's turning into one of those game wreckers. As fun as it is and as exciting as it would be to have a D-line that consists of Maxx Crosby, DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, it immediately becomes best D-line in the NFL. Call me biased all you want. I'll stand on that island and I'll die on it. But there's just no way the Raiders are going to trade the best pass rusher on their team in their division to the Detroit Lions. It's just not even a thing that I can comprehend happening. So I see a lot of people talking about it on Twitter. I've gotten a lot of texts about it. I've had a lot of people clip me some videos of other people saying it needs to happen. Maxx Crosby needs to be a Detroit Lion. Maxx Crosby speak it into existence. Like, it's just not happening, fellas and ladies. It's not. Maxx Crosby is not going to be a Detroit Lion this year or next year. If I'm wrong, nobody on the world will be happier. But you want to talk about what it's going to cost to get him? You're talking multiple first-round picks, at least 2. You're giving up 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby. I'm not saying he's not worth it. It's just a heavy price tag. It's just a very, very heavy price tag. And on top of that, you got to pay him $24 million. We got a lot of our own mouths to feed. Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, in the more distant future, Aleem McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson. Like, we got our own mouths to feed. As nice as it would be to have a Maxx Crosby, as fun as it is to think about, it's phenomenal. I mean, I set out that defensive line for you guys: Hutch, Crosby, Aleem, DJ Reader. It's filthy. Like, good luck to the quarterback. We don't even need a secondary. We don't need cornerbacks. We could go get guys who are walking up and down the aisles at Ford Field selling beers and put them at cornerback, and we're going to be just fine because they're not going to be able to get any receivers open because their quarterback's going to be running for his life with that D-line. So it's fun to think about. It's exciting, but we got to put down the Madden controllers, guys. We got to turn off the salary cap. You got to understand, like, it's real football. The Raiders are not that far off from being a good team. They got their work cut out for them because they got to play the Kansas City Chiefs twice a year. But, I mean, they got a nice squad. They beat Kansas City once last year toward the end of the season, I believe. Also, a player they lost was Amik Robertson, who came to us. So that's another one in free agency that they lost. So overall, free agency wasn't great for them. They still got the draft. I think they're going to get a quarterback. They'll be competitive. They will be competitive. I can see them getting in the AFC wild card picture, that is. I don't think they're going to win their division with the Chiefs being there. But I can see them being a wild card team. So why would a team who's got at least playoff aspirations go out and trade their best defensive end, their best player on their team, him or Devontae Adams probably? So I don't like talking to other teams too much. We're a Detroit Lions podcast. That's what we do here. But like I said, I have to address this Maxx Crosby stuff. And this was a guy who I really wanted maybe at the trade deadline. But the Raiders were still kind of battling. They weren't really in sell mode. They weren't in buy mode. They were just kind of in limbo. They're trying to figure out what they were doing. But I've seen all these rumors. I saw this podcast a few days ago, and I thought, oh, my God, the Lions fans are going to be in a roar, pun intended, about Maxx Crosby, how we need to trade for him. And sure as shit, everywhere I go on Twitter, it's everywhere, guys. So if you're not following me on Twitter, I cannot upload the clip of the podcast here due to copyright stuff. I've been trying. It's just not possible. I will share it on Twitter. If you guys need a little bit more reference, follow us on Twitter, Detroit Den 313. I will put that video up there. You guys can see what I'm talking about if you need a little bit more context. But look, I like what Dan Campbell's doing just with the Detroit Lions. I think we're going to be okay. I know we got the Cam Sutton issue going on right now. Still hope he's okay. He's been on the run, missing. I don't know what word to use to classify that situation for 16 days now. So over 2 weeks, something just doesn't feel right. I don't know. I hope everything turns out to be okay, but I don't know. I just don't have a good feeling in my gut about what's going on with this Cam Sutton situation. But I trust Dan. I trust Brad. We got the draft coming up in about a month. We're about a little more than four weeks away, something like that. So we're going to be okay, guys. Maxx Crosby, fun to have, but we can get some guys, man. We were in the NFC Championship game, should have won it. We're going to be all right. We had a phenomenal free agency. I give it a solid B+ what we did in free agency. We still got the draft. We're going to add some missing pieces to make this team better. Making a NFC Championship caliber team better should put us as Super Bowl favorites. Now, you still got to go out and execute. You know, all that hype doesn't mean shit if you don't show up on the field. So I have confidence. I just wanted to address this Maxx Crosby stuff. As much as I'd like to have it, I'd say there's a 1% chance of it happening. You never know in the NFL. Nothing's for sure, but I will say I would be absolutely blown away if Maxx Crosby is a Detroit Lion within the next 2 years. So there it is. I've addressed the rumors. I've talked about it. I've given you my opinion. I've went through every step of the way for the Las Vegas Raiders the past this past offseason with their draft, what they should do, who they lost, some guys they added. I've addressed it all, guys. I don't see Maxx Crosby still being traded. The Raiders are going to compete. It's the NFL. There's other good teams. As fun as it is to think about Max being on our team, 1% chance of it happening. So leave some comments down below. Hit that like button. If you're new, stick around, subscribe. We'll be back later with some more content, guys. Have a good Saturday. Good luck on your brackets. Going to pull up some beers myself and watch a little college basketball later on. So enjoy your weekend, guys. We'll be back probably tomorrow with another episode. See ya.